The Lambda variant of the coronavirus may be highly infectious and more resistant to COVID-19 vaccines than the original variant of the coronavirus, Reuters reports. A new study, published online through bioRxiv but has not been peer-reviewed, found that the Lambda variant has 3 mutations to the spike protein that help it resist antibodies created by the COVID-19 vaccines. The study said that there were 2 additional mutations that make Lambda even more infectious, so, all at once, the variant can spread fast and evade vaccines, according to the researchers, who worked in a lab in Japan. The researchers warned that the Lambda variant should be labeled a variant of concern by the World Health Organization and not a variant of interest. As it is now, the study said that people don't see Lambda as a huge threat right now because it is not labeled as a variant of concern, like the Delta variant. Per Reuters, it's unclear if the Lambda variant is more dangerous than the Delta variant right now. But senior researcher Kei Sato, of the University of Tokyo, told Reuters that we should be concerned about the variant. Lambda can be a potential threat to the human society, he said. Indeed, the variant is behind 1,000 different cases in the United States right now, according to Newsweek. The variant was originally discovered in Peru in August 2020 where it became the dominant strain of the virus. It has since spread to 29 different countries. S. Wesley Long, medical director of diagnostic biology at Houston Methodist, told USA Today that the Lambda variant might not be as concerning as the Delta variant. I know there's great interest in Lambda, but I think people really need to be focused on Delta, Long said. Most importantly, regardless of the variant, our best defense against all these variants is vaccination. Next up in coronavirus, what makes some people superhuman immune to COVID-19? Pfizer's top scientist reveals why there are less side effects from Pfizer. Dr. Fauci reveals a major way to keep children under 12 safe from COVID-19. 10% of all U.S. COVID-19 cases came in the last 4 weeks. Some Utahns are waiting hours in line for a COVID-19 test. Now the state is planning more sites. New report reveals the real chances of a breakthrough COVID-19 infection. Prince Harry gave an impassioned speech at an awards ceremony last night, pleading with governments and pharmaceutical companies to do more to vaccinate the world. Where you're born should not affect your ability to survive, when the drugs and know-how exist to keep you alive and well, the Duke of Sussex told attendees of the 24th annual GQ Men of the Year Awards. Harry was presenting the Heroes of the Year award to Professor Dame Sarah Gilbert, Dr. Catherine Green and the team behind the Oxford/AstraZeneca vaccine. Speaking via video link, he called them heroes of the highest order who gave us an instrument to fight this disease, adding, "They are our nation's pride and we are deeply indebted to their service." But as he hailed their breakthrough research, he also called on others to do more, until every community can access the vaccine, and until every community is connected to trustworthy information about the vaccine, then we are all at risk, he said. He went on, as people sit in the room with you tonight, more than a third of the global population has received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. That's more than 5 billion shots given around the world so far. It sounds like a major accomplishment, and in many ways is. But there is a huge disparity between who can and cannot access the vaccine. Less than 2% of people in the developing world have received a single dose at this point, and many of their healthcare workers are still not even vaccinated. We cannot move forward together unless we address this imbalance as one. The Duke also spoke about the misinformation campaigns that are adding to vaccine hesitancy. This is a system we need to break if we are to overcome COVID-19 and the rise of new variants, he said. He then called on global governments, pharmaceutical leaders, and heads of business to do their part. That must include sharing vaccine science and supporting and empowering developing countries with more flexibility, he said. Harry and his wife Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, have previously spoken out on vaccine inequality. Last May the pair were campaign chairs of Vax Live, the concert to reunite the world, an international COVID-19 vaccination effort organized by Global Citizen. Speaking at that event, Harry said, "None of us should be comfortable thinking that we could be fine when so many others are suffering. In reality, and especially with this pandemic, When any suffer, we all suffer, Harry also said in his remarks. We must look beyond ourselves with empathy and compassion for those we know, and those we don't. We need to lift up all of humanity and make sure that no person or community is left behind. Officials in India are racing to contain a virus outbreak that has claimed the life of a 12-year-old boy and is deadlier than COVID-19, the Nipah virus. CBS News reports the boy was taken to the hospital last week in the southern Kerala state with a high-grade fever and suspected brain inflammation. After blood tests, he was diagnosed with the Nipah virus and died Sunday. Officials are using contact tracing, quarantine, and hospitalization on the 188 people who have came into contact with the preteen to prevent a widespread outbreak, CBS reported. This is one of those viruses we really need to pay attention to, John Lednicki, a research professor at the University of Florida's Environmental and Global Health Department, told USA Today. The reemergence of the Nipah virus is compacting a problem in the nation already grappling with the effects of COVID-19, with over 30,000 new COVID cases reported on Monday. What is the Nipah virus? The Nipah virus was first discovered in Malaysia and Singapore in 1999 after multiple pigs and people became sick, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So far, the only recorded outbreaks have occurred in Asia. It's classified as a zoonotic virus that initially spreads from animals to people. It can also be transmitted through contaminated food and directly between people. The Nipah virus is not related to COVID-19, but may have the same originating source, bats. The host of the virus is fruit bats, also known as flying foxes because of their large size. Lednicki said pigs are highly susceptible to the virus and can come in contact with it through fruit material the bats have been consuming. Other domestic animals like horses, goats, sheep, cats, and dogs can become infected, according to the CDC. Unsuspecting humans may also come into contact with contaminated fruit and become infected. There's probably an underestimate of people who have been infected with the virus due to people not being properly diagnosed, Lednicki said. What are the signs and symptoms? Symptoms of the Nipah virus vary from asymptomatic to acute respiratory infection and, at its worst, encephalitis, a swelling of active tissue in the brain that can be fatal. According to the World Health Organization, infected people can experience sore throat, fever, headaches, and muscle pains. If the infection progresses, dizziness and altered consciousness could be signs of encephalitis. The start of symptoms ranges from 4 to 14 days after exposure and there are currently no vaccines available to treat the virus. There's no good treatment for it, Lednicki said. They put you in the hospital, but there's really nothing much else they can do for you. WHO reports that 40% to 75% of Nipah cases are fatal compared to COVID-19 fatality rate of around 2%. Should people in US be worried? Lednicki said people in the US don't need to worry much about Nipah virus because it has been isolated to Asia regions where fruit bats live, but there's always a chance someone can bring the virus into a new area. The concern really is how people travel, Lednicki said. Years ago when travel was more restricted, you didn't see unusual pathogens traveling. Lednicki hopes that US can learn from the COVID-19 pandemic and take on a more proactive approach versus a reactive one. There are going to be more emerging pathogens, he said. The United States is facing a COVID-19 surge this summer as the more contagious Delta variant spreads. More than 643,000 Americans have died from COVID-19 while over 4.5 million people have died from the disease worldwide, according to real-time data compiled by the Center for Systems Science and Engineering at Johns Hopkins University. Just 61.7% of Americans ages 12 and up are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, according to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Nearly 350 children are currently hospitalized with COVID-19 in Texas, state data shows, according to the Texas Department of State Health Services online COVID-19 dashboard, which was last updated on Sunday afternoon. There are 345 pediatric patients in hospitals across the Lone Star State. That number was up from 282 on Thursday afternoon. The data also shows there are 73 staffed pediatric intensive care unit beds available in all of Texas. Since the new school year began in Texas last month, some 52,000 students have tested positive for COVID-19, according to the data. Similar to the Delta variant, the Lambda variant may be more infectious and vaccine-resistant, according to a recent study in Japan. The preprint study, which has yet to be peer-reviewed, shows that the Lambda variant is capable of bypassing the neutralizing antibodies that can fight off the virus. Researchers said that multiple mutations in spike protein, like those found in Lambda and other variants, are more resistant to antibodies in vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals. 1. The researchers were able to demonstrate this in a lab setting. Robert Quigley, MD, DPhil, Senior Vice President and Global Medical Director at International SOS, tells very well that the findings are not surprising but should be observed critically. We're seeing a trend, which is what all of us in the scientific community expected, that the longer COVID-19 is allowed to prevail, we're going to start getting towards vaccines that may not be efficacious against this SARS-CoV-2 viral variant, Quigley says. The researchers did not specify whether the Lambda variant was more dangerous than Delta. However, they pointed out that since the World Health Organization, WHO, designates Lambda as a variant of interest, VOI2 rather than a variant of concern, VOC, people may not consider Lambda as an ongoing threat. According to the study, Lambda's virological features and how they evolve remain unknown. Other studies have also found that the Delta variant demonstrates some levels of resistance to the COVID-19 vaccines. 3. You wouldn't want that combination of a virus that has the ability to spread really quickly, and it has vaccine resistance, Quigley says. That would be your kiss of death. Scientists will need to develop new vaccines when we reach that point, he adds. The good news is that we're not there yet, he says. The Delta variant now accounts for more than 93% of COVID-19 cases in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. There are 938 COVID-19 cases caused by the Lambda variant, which is less than 1% of the nation's total cases. The CDC currently has no information about Lambda on its variant classification page. Viruses, or variants of viruses, can become vaccine-resistant if they mutate. Mutations occur naturally so long as the virus has a host, a person, to infect and transmit infection from. While not all mutations are vaccine-resistant, those that are different enough from the original strain of the virus may not be neutralized by the appropriate antibodies. This is alarming, but not uncommon, Quigley says, adding that scientists also update the influenza vaccine to target new mutations every year. These decisions are decided by international health agencies, who work collaboratively with the CDC to decide what strains of influenza are circulating and how to combat them with vaccines, Quigley adds. Usually they're pretty close to being right, but it's not always 100%, he says. Some years, they're not as efficacious as other years. If the virus sticks around longer, assembling a similar panel to survey mutations and develop subsequent COVID-19 vaccines will be important, he adds. Booster shots or a variant-specific vaccine are also important considerations going forward. He says, it's no surprise that we're seeing these variants, Quigley says. What is surprising to me is that we're not, as a society, taking advantage of the data we do know, which is that vaccinated people will stop this spread because there'll be no place for this virus to replicate. If the virus sticks around longer, assembling a similar panel to survey mutations and develop subsequent COVID-19 vaccines will be important, he adds. Booster shots or a variant-specific vaccine are also important considerations going forward, he says. It's no surprise that we're seeing these variants, Quigley says. What is surprising to me is that we're not, as a society, taking advantage of the data we do know, which is that vaccinated people will stop this spread because there'll be no place for this virus to replicate.